just thought it was funny. But the reason why I'm bringing this whole thing up was later I went to a dinner and I spoke about this with another group of friends and I said, guys, you want to try this game? It's fun. It's difficult. And one friend who he's a little bit older than me, we have a great relationship. He's like uncle to me.
Yeah.
Like I call him Unc, and he's always willing for my sake, from a place of love, to push back and really make sure I'm growing as a human and I'm not speaking from a place of ego or narrative. And he said, why the fuck would we play that game? And I said, well, I think I went, if I remember correctly, I went to a whole tangent about humanity. I said the word we. I said, we have a problem at times where we use questions and we don't actually mean them and we're asking, how are you? So I used this blanket statement of we. And he said, well, how do you know I do that? And I said, that makes sense. Like, how do I know with certainty that you do this? Because in reality, right, we learn also in Kabbalah that there's one perspective where it's just you and the creator, and the whole universe was built for you. And everybody else is here to support you are the center of the universe. So what's the point of even including the word we in the way you're talking about people? So for the next 3 hours to like 1 in the morning, he was grilling me. What did you mean by that? Why? Is there something more subconscious? What's going on here? At the end of it, it really showed me a lot, like one related to including other people in your point of view, right? He said, you are David Sorkin. You don't know what Ben Beery's going through. For sure, you don't. You could pick up on little things, but right, it may be viewed as one extreme, right? One perspective. And on the other hand, the Kabbalists say you are here to support the whole world and you're like an ant and there's humility there. And right, you are meant to share and uplift Ben to be the center of his universe. So I see both perspectives, but really it goes back to just giving more attention to that. Like, can I have enough presence and concentration to choose for the next 5 minutes? I'm going to operate from the frame of reference of David Sorkin. And then the next five, I'm going to solely be meditating on Ben, and he's the center of the universe, and I'm here to support him. And the last thing, we went to dinner. He took me out for my belated birthday, and he gave me a toast. He said, David, I bless for this year for any veils to be removed from your eyes related to, your power and your ability to nourish the world and share with the world. And not this grand ego view of I'm the shit. Really to see like the power that we all have within each other. This unique, very powerful spark. And again, as we learn in Kabbalah, right? We have the same spark that the divine has. So technically we have that expansiveness as well. And the last thing he said is, he looked at me and he said, David, I bless for you to be unconditionally David Sorkin.
Yeah.
And what did that feel like for me? The analogy, I like analogies, so the viewers will probably hear me use analogies a lot in this conversation. It felt like when you have a clear nose and you go to the beach and you take such a fresh, deep breath, you can actually smell the sea salt and you can like smell the crispness of the air. That's what it feels like to be unconditionally David Sorkin. On the other hand, when you live from a place of narrative, even us who study spirituality, right? The danger in spirituality, and I've seen it for myself, is you learn these concepts and now everything has to fit into that paradigm and framework. So even though it looks like we're talking through spirituality, it's still a little bit robotic because it's, oh, everything has to go back. Oh, why is this my tikkun? And why is this my movie? Just go back to having, again, freshness, new light, new revelation, and living through more of like a narrative identity, as you talked about. It feels like a nose that is clogged with boogers or whatever. And what happens? You sleep worse. Your day just feels more heavy. You can't work out as well. It just feels like there's not that vibrancy. And then that got me thinking about identity, right? And on one hand, you need to be very proud of yourself and you need to recognize your power and see, hey, look at all the trophies you have in your life. Look how many beautiful things you've done. So you kind of walk into any room already knowing your power. I'm like Bill Russell. I got 12 rings on. But what happens is now you come into every room already with sort of a past view of yourself already kind of made. So you're coming in, I'm the guy that has 12 rings. But that's kind of stale. That's in the past. Where's that renewal? Where's that vibrancy? You need fresh. And I'll throw it back to you in one last second. I was listening to a lecture from a teacher, Marcus Weston in UK, and yesterday he was talking about, the portion of the Sabbath, and he was saying how the sages would describe two systems. On one hand, there was one Hebrew word he used, I don't remember, and another. One described a man-made tank, like a tank of water that's finite and enclosed. What happens in there? Water starts to pool, and then what happens? Bacteria grows and you get the moss. So there's no freshness. On the other hand, you get a well that has water coming from underground. There's constant renewal, constant flow, constant movement. So on one hand, we need to be proud and come to every interaction knowing our power. And on one hand, that does include the past. I'm grateful for, look at what you've done. You are powerful. On the other hand, you don't want to be stuck within the framework of this box tank. You want freshness. And that's why when we spoke at the beginning of this podcast, I said, on one hand, I want to bring revelations that I've talked about and things that I feel like you'd find cool and we could talk about, this is what's happening in the last 20 minutes. I'm talking about things that have happened in the last week or so, 2 weeks ago. But on the other hand, we need to reveal new light, new revelations, new understandings. So I bring all that to preface. Now we've caught up. I'm now back to the present, and my intention is to reveal new light and new revelations, and we can go back and talk about different things. But that was a long setup for now we're here, and I want to talk about freshness and really unpack it.
Amazing. And one thing is that I really admire you for is that quest to be 100% David Sorkin. Like, how close to 100% can you actually get to yourself? Like, every single person you meet, like, how close to 100% of themselves can they get to?